I no longer remember the taste of water. I am Brother Septimus, Dreadnought of the Crimson Castellans, 3rd Company. They tell me I have served for 847 years. I believe them because I cannot remember enough to disagree. The Tech Marines say this is normal. Blessed, even. I remember my death, though the apothecaries say it was not truly death, merely the end of my first service. The Tyranid bioplasma melted through my power armor on Hive world Kraitos. I felt it burn through the ceramite, through the black carapace beneath, through my fused ribcage. Most of my organs liquefied. I could smell myself cooking from the inside. Brother Captain Hadrian stood over me as my vision dimmed. He was speaking, his lips moving behind his helm's grill, but the vox in my helmet had melted. I could not hear his words. I think he was reciting the litany of sacrifice, or perhaps the prayer for the fallen. I wanted to tell him I was not afraid, that I had served with honor, that the Emperor would judge me worthy. Then the apothecaries arrived. I felt the Narthecium's blades extracting my gene seed. Standard protocol. My legacy would continue in another brother. This brought me comfort as the darkness closed in. I woke 3 days later in the Apothecarian. Brother Captain Hadrian was there again, and this time I could hear him. Brother Septimus, the chapter master has reviewed your service record, your deeds at Kraitos, your 17 years of unblemished duty, your gene seed purity. You have been deemed worthy of the greatest honor our chapter can bestow. I did not understand. My gene seed had been harvested. I should be dead or dying. You will walk again, brother. You will serve again, eternally. The chapter master himself came to my medici slab. I tried to rise, to show proper respect, but I had no body below my chest. What remained was covered in regenerative synth skin and surrounded by life support machinery that clicked and hissed with each breath it forced into my remaining lung. He pressed the aquila to what was left of my chest. The cold metal against my exposed muscle should have hurt. I felt nothing. The pain suppressants, I assumed. Brother Septimus of the 3rd Company, your sacrifice has earned you a place among the chapter's immortals. You shall be interred within a dreadnought chassis. Your vigil will never end. Your service will span millennia. You will become the Emperor's wrath incarnate, a living weapon of the Imperium. I wept. Or I believe I wept. My eyes were damaged, the tear ducts sealed with scar tissue. But inside, where my transhuman heart still beat its slow, augmented rhythm, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Only the greatest heroes received this honor. Only those whose deeds had proven them worthy of eternal service. I am unworthy of such grace, my lord, I managed to whisper, through a throat that felt like scorched meat. The Emperor judges your worth, brother, and he has found you acceptable. The Tech Marines explained the procedure with such reverence. Tech Marine Voss, his red robes pristine, his mechadendrites moving with careful precision, walked me through each step. They would place me in a sarcophagus. My remaining organs would be sustained by nutrient feeds and oxygen recyclers. Neural interface cables would be surgically attached to my brainstem, my spine, the few intact nerve clusters in my shoulders. These connections would allow me to interface directly with the Dreadnought chassis. You will not simply pilot the machine, Brother Septimus. You will become the machine. Its sensors will be your eyes, its weapons your hands, its armor your skin. He made it sound beautiful, sacred, a fusion of flesh and blessed machinery in the Omnissiah's image. "Will it hurt?" I asked, a foolish question. Pain is the Emperor's way of testing devotion. Tekmarine Voss tilted his head, the gesture surprisingly human despite his extensive augmentation. The initial integration phase involves significant neural trauma. The human nervous system was not designed to interface with a weapons platform of this magnitude. But we have chemical regulators, suppressants. They will manage the pain, maintain your consciousness at optimal levels, prevent psychological degradation. Psychological degradation. The words meant nothing to me then. The day of my entombment, the entire Third Company assembled in the Chapel of Heroes. My brothers stood in perfect formation, their armor polished to mirror brightness, their helms painted with the company's crimson and bone heraldry. Chaplain Mordred led the rites of interment. He anointed my flesh with sacred oils. He inscribed devotional scripture directly onto my exposed skull. Each word burned as the auto-quill carved through bone. In death, service. In service, immortality. In immortality, the Emperor's glory. The servitors lifted me into the sarcophagus. It was smaller than I expected. So much smaller. My body, what remained of it, barely fit. They folded my truncated limbs into the recesses designed for them. The neural cables came next. I felt each one pierce my flesh, burrowing through muscle, scraping against bone, finding the nerve clusters and embedding themselves deep. My brain stem, my spinal column, the shoulder joints where my arms should have been. Each connection sent lightning through my nervous system. I screamed. The litany of fortitude poured from my lips between screams. Pain is the doorway to devotion. Suffering is the path to righteousness. I embrace agony as I embrace the Emperor's love. Then they activated the chemical regulators. The pain did not stop. It simply stopped mattering. A distant sensation, like something happening to someone else, in another room, in another life. I felt myself relax. My screaming ceased. A pleasant numbness spread through my awareness. "How do you feel, Brother Septimus?" Tekmarine Voss asked. "I feel blessed," I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange, distant, not quite my own. "Good. Now we begin the first stasis cycle. You will rest while your body adapts to the integration. When you wake, you will take your first steps in your new form." Rest sounded wonderful. I was so tired. The battle on Kraitos felt like it had lasted years. How long will I sleep? As long as necessary. Time is different now, brother. You exist outside its flow. We will wake you when the chapter has need of you. The chemicals flooded in, stronger now. A tide of artificial tranquility that swept away thought itself. I descended into darkness, and the last thing I remember thinking was how peaceful it felt, how safe, how grateful I was for this honor. When I woke, Tekmarine Voss stood before my optical sensors. His face had more augmentation than I remembered. New mechadendrites sprouted from his back. His left eye had been replaced with an advanced Auspex array. "Welcome back, Brother Septimus. You have been in stasis for 17 years. The chapter requires your service." 17 years, gone, vanished like a single heartbeat. I tried to ask what I had missed. The Bellum Crusade, the reinforcements from Mars, my squadmates, were they well? But my Vox speakers only produced static at first. Tekmarine Voss adjusted something on his data slate. My voice came online, a deep mechanical rumble that shook the armory's walls. "I am ready to serve." "Good," he said, and I swear I saw something in his remaining organic eye. Pity, perhaps, or regret, but it was gone before I could be certain. "The Emperor protects, Brother Septimus." "The Emperor protects," I agreed, and meant it with every fibre of my being. I still mean it now, 847 years later, though I can no longer remember why the meaning once felt different. The emergency activation protocols tore me from the void, like a hand ripping me from deep water. 17 years of nothing. Then, suddenly, alarms flooding every sensory input at once. "Brother Septimus, 3rd Company requires immediate deployment. Orc war on Tertius IV. Estimated enemy strength. Overwhelming. Glory awaits." I tried to respond, to acknowledge the order, to speak as I once had. What emerged from my Vox speakers was a roar that physically shook the armory. Several servitors working nearby stumbled. One collapsed entirely, its augmented legs unable to compensate for the sudden vibration. Techmarine Voss adjusted something on his data slate. My Vox output normalized. "I am ready," I said, though my voice still sounded wrong. Too deep, too loud, not mine. "Your chassis has been blessed and prepared, all systems optimal. The Emperor's wrath awaits your delivery, brother." My first steps were wrong. Fundamentally, impossibly wrong. The Dreadnought chassis weighs 11 tons. 11 tons of blessed ceramite, adamantium endoskeleton, plasma reactor, weapon systems, and the sarcophagus containing what remains of me. I should have felt that weight, should have felt the strain in servos, the pressure on hydraulics. Something. I felt nothing. The ground trembled with each footfall. I registered this through seismic sensors, through data fed directly into my visual cortex, but I did not feel it. My feet, the massive articulated pads that served as feet, touched stone that I perceived only as pressure readings on my HUD. Walking forward required conscious thought for each movement. Shift weight distribution to left leg. Engage right leg servos. Advance. Compensate for momentum. Repeat. What should have been instinctive, what my body once knew without thinking, now required deliberate calculation. Brother Sergeant Core approached as I emerged into the staging area. His armor bore new honor markings I did not recognize. How many battles had he fought while I slept? "Brother Septimus, the Emperor smiles upon us. Your presence will surely turn the tide." I tried to return the traditional greeting, the clasping of forearms that brothers share before battle. My power fist, a weapon system larger than his entire torso, moved forward. Core stepped back quickly, fear flashing across his face before discipline reasserted itself. "Forgive me, brother," I said. "I am still calibrating." "No forgiveness necessary, honored one. Your very presence is blessing enough, honored one." "Not brother." The distinction felt significant, though I could not articulate why. They loaded me into the Thunderhawk with the reverence of loading a relic, because that is what I am now. Not a warrior, a weapon to be transported, deployed, retrieved. The flight to Tertius IV took 6 hours. I could not feel the acceleration, the turbulence, the vibrations of the aircraft. I existed in perfect stillness, while my chassis was secured with magna clamps to the transport bay floor. Brother Core and his squad occupied the troop compartment. I could hear them through the internal vox, their prayers and battle hymns, their checks of ammunition and weapons, the familiar rituals of warriors preparing for combat. I could not check my ammunition. The assault cannon's feed mechanism was autonomous. I could not sharpen my blade. The power fist required no maintenance I could perform. I could only wait, conscious and immobile, while others prepared around me. The landing was violent. Orc anti-air fire had damaged one of the Thunderhawk's engines. We hit the ground hard, the impact rattling every bolt in the chassis. My damage indicators showed nothing. Hull integrity, 100%. I had felt nothing. The assault ramp dropped and light flooded in. Tertius IV's sun was bright, painful. My optical sensors automatically compensated, adjusting wavelength filters and brightness parameters. The sky registered as blue in my visual field, though I suddenly could not remember if blue had once meant something different when I saw it with eyes. "For the Emperor! For the chapter!" Brother Kor led his squad out. Bolters firing. I followed, each step shaking the earth, and saw my first orc in 847 years. No, that was wrong. My first orc in 17 years. Time kept slipping in my mind. The greenskins were everything the tactical briefings promised. Massive, crude, howling with bestial fury. They charged in a disorganized tide, waving choppers and shooters, their war cries audible even over the sound of bolter fire. My targeting matrix activated automatically. Threat assessment protocols identified priorities. Trajectory calculations plotted optimal firing solutions. All of this happened in microseconds, data overlaying my vision in a heads-up display that reduced living beings to target markers and kill percentages. I opened fire. The assault cannon spun up with a sound like tearing metal, 6,000 rounds per minute, mass-reactive shells designed to penetrate armor and detonate inside the target. The weapon bucked against its mounting, recoil dampeners absorbing forces that would tear a human apart. I felt none of it. Orcs exploded. That is the only word for it. The mass-reactive rounds turned flesh into red mist, shattered crude armor into shrapnel, reduced the charging horde into component pieces. My kill counter climbed. 5, 10, 20. The numbers appeared in my peripheral vision, clean and precise. I could not smell the blood, could not feel the heat of my weapon, could not sense the impact of their return fire, except as numbers declining on my hull integrity display. A knob, larger than its fellows, crashed into my chassis. Its power claw, a crude but effective weapon, tore through my frontal armor. Sparks flew. Alerts flashed across my HUD. Hull integrity, 94%. Armor breach detected. Non-critical systems damaged. No pain, just information. I caught the knob with my power fist. The energy field crackled as I closed my fingers around its torso. Pressure sensors registered increasing resistance. I squeezed harder. The knob's armor crumpled, then its ribcage, then everything inside. The pressure sensors maxed out at their operational limit, but still I felt nothing in my hands. No wetness of blood, no crunch of bone. Just numbers on a display telling me the target had been neutralized. The battle lasted 3 hours. My chassis suffered 12% hull integrity loss. My assault cannon expended 18,000 rounds. My power fist registered 73 individual kills. When the last orc fell and Brother Kor raised his chainsword in victory, the squad cheered. They embraced each other. Their armor dented and scorched, their breathing heavy with exhaustion and exhilaration. I stood among them, perfectly still, my reactor humming at idle, and felt absolutely nothing. Brother Kor approached, removed his helmet. His face was flushed, alive with the glory of victory. He placed his gauntleted hand on my leg armor, barely reaching the knee joint. "Brother Septimus! 73 confirmed kills. The Emperor's wrath flows through you. This victory is yours." I wanted to feel pride, wanted to feel the savage joy of victory, the relief of survival, the bond of brotherhood forged in combat. I remembered feeling these things once. The memory was there, distant and faded, like a picked image viewed through murky water. "The Emperor protects," I said, because it was what I was supposed to say. "The Emperor protects," the squad echoed. They guided me back to the Thunderhawk for extraction. The other brothers walked on their own, some limping, some supporting wounded squad mates. I was escorted like a piece of equipment being returned to storage. At the Fortress-Monastery, serf attendants rushed forward as my chassis entered the Dreadnought chapel. They chanted prayers as they connected the maintenance umbilicals. Nutrient feed, waste extraction, power coupling, data uplink. Each connection was a sacrament, each servitor performing its function with religious devotion. "Rest now, honored one," Techmarine Voss said, already reviewing diagnostic data on his slate. "You have earned the Emperor's peace." I wanted to protest. I had been awake for 7 hours. 7 hours after 17 years of nothing. I was not tired. I did not need rest. I wanted to walk the halls of the fortress. I wanted to speak with my brothers about the battle, to share in the post-combat rituals, to feel like I was still part of the chapter, rather than a weapon they retrieved when needed. But the chemicals were already flooding in. I felt them enter my system through the neural interface, felt the artificial calm spreading through my consciousness like warm water. "The post-battle integration requires immediate stasis, Brother Septimus," Voss continued, not looking up from his data slate. "The neural load of sustained combat is taxing on your biological components. Extended consciousness could cause permanent damage. You must rest. Must, not should. Must." The darkness rose up to claim me, and my last thought before the void took me was gratitude. Gratitude that I would not have to think any more. Gratitude that the strange emptiness I felt would be replaced by nothing at all. When I woke, they told me 32 years had passed. Brother Sergeant Corps was now Captain Corps, commander of the 3rd Company. Every member of my original squad was dead, killed in battles I slept through, replaced by warriors I had never met. I had missed their funerals, all of them. I have served in 14 campaigns since my interment, 14 battles scattered across 73 years, or perhaps it was 83 years. The numbers blur together. The Tech Marines keep precise records, but I have stopped asking them to clarify. The rest is darkness, dreamless, timeless void. No thoughts, no sensations, no awareness that time is passing at all. One moment I am descending into chemical sleep, the next I am waking to deployment orders, and decades have evaporated like morning mist. Chaplain Mordred says this is a blessing, that I am spared the tedium of peacetime, the burden of waiting, the slow erosion that comes from watching the galaxy turn while standing still. I am called forth only for holy war, only when the Emperor requires his wrath made manifest. I want to believe him. Some days I do believe him. In the microseconds between chemical cycles, I feel things that should not be there. My fingers itch. I have no fingers. They were amputated during the interment procedure, removed because the sarcophagus could not accommodate whole hands. But I feel them anyway. Phantom sensations of skin touching cloth, nails digging into palms, knuckles cracking from tension I cannot release. My legs ache. Both were removed at mid-thigh to fit my torso into the sarcophagus, yet I feel them cramping. Muscles I no longer possess, seizing with pain that has no source. Sometimes I feel as though I have been marching for days without rest, though my chassis has not moved. My face twitches. I believe I still have a face, suspended in the nutrient solution inside the sarcophagus, though I have never asked the tech marines to confirm. My cheek spasms, my jaw clenches, my eyelids flutter as if trying to blink away something I can no longer see. During a routine maintenance cycle, I mentioned these sensations to Tech Marine Voss. He has aged. His organic components show the strain of decades of service. New augmentation covers more of his body than I remember. He nodded without looking up from his data slate, his mechadendrites making precise adjustments to my nutrient feed regulators. Residual neural patterns, Brother Septimus. The brain continues generating signals to limbs that no longer exist. Standard phenomenon in all Dreadnought-class platforms. Nothing of concern. They are becoming more frequent. We can adjust your suppressant regimen. Increase the baseline sedation between active deployment cycles. The sensation should diminish. After that adjustment, I felt the phantom sensations less. The itching fingers faded to occasional tingles. The leg cramps became distant echoes. My face stopped twitching entirely. I also began forgetting things. Small things at first. The name of a battle brother I served with before my interment. Was it Darius or Dante? Both names felt correct and wrong simultaneously. The color of Terra's sky in the propaganda pict images we studied as neophytes. Blue? Green? Had there been clouds, where the wine tasted sweet or bitter? I know I drank wine once, during the feast after my first successful campaign. I remember raising the cup, remember brothers toasting around me, but the taste itself is gone, replaced by a gap in memory where sensation used to live. My mother's face. All Space Marines were born mortal, taken as children and transformed. I know this. I know I had a mother. She would have held me as an infant. But when I reach for that memory, when I try to reconstruct her features, there is only static, like viewing a corrupted data file, fragments of information that refuse to coalesce into anything recognizable. I remember my battle brother Thrace. He died beside me on Kraitos, killed by the same Tyranid bioform that melted my chest. His last words, spoken over the Vox as the aliens overwhelmed our position, were clear in my mind for centuries. "For the chapter," he said. I was certain he said that. For the chapter. Except the last time I accessed that memory, he said something different. For the Emperor. The words were identical in meaning, but the phrasing had changed. Or had I remembered it wrong the first time? I tried again, pulling up the memory like accessing a data file. This time he died silently, his Vox system destroyed before he could speak. This time, there were no last words at all, just the wet sound of him drowning in his own blood. The memory shifted each time I examined it, degraded like a picked image copied too many times, each iteration losing resolution, gaining artifacts, transforming into something that resembled, but was not quite the original. During one of my brief periods of consciousness between deployments, I asked Chaplain Mordred if this was normal. He had been performing the rites of awakening, anointing my chassis with sacred oils before my next battle. "Chaplain, I find my memories becoming inconsistent. Events I remember clearly begin to change when I examine them. Details shift. Is this degradation of my biological components?" Mordred paused, his servo skull circling my chassis, with its incense burners trailing smoke. The mortal mind was not designed for the span of years you have witnessed, Brother Septimus. You have lived longer than any unaugmented human could dream. longer than most space marines survive. The brain, even our enhanced brains, has finite capacity. So I am losing myself. You are shedding unnecessary weight. Memories of the past serve no purpose when the present demands your attention. You are becoming more efficient, more pure, keeping only what matters: duty, honor, service to the Emperor. What if I wish to remember? What if those memories are part of who I am? Mordred's expression, what I could see of it behind his skull-faced helm, held something I could not quite identify. Pity? Envy? He placed his hand on my sarcophagus plate. Why would you wish to remember, brother? The past is dead. Your brothers from that time are dead. The battles you fought are history. But you are eternal. You exist in an endless present, called forth when needed, blessed with purpose that transcends the fading concerns of mortal memory. He sounded so certain, so absolute. The chemical regulators hummed in the background, maintaining my emotional stability at optimal parameters. You are right, Chaplain. Forgive my moment of weakness. There is nothing to forgive. Even the most devoted may occasionally question. But know this, you are blessed beyond measure. Your service spans centuries. Your kill count exceeds that of entire companies. You are a legend walking. What need have legends for the mundane details of their mortal origins? After he left, I tried to remember what I had been concerned about. The memory of our conversation was already fading, becoming vague and indistinct. Something about remembering, something I wanted to keep, but the specifics would not come. And within hours, as the chemicals prepared me for the next stasis cycle, I could no longer recall why it had seemed important. I told myself this was optimal. This was how it should be. A weapon does not need memories. A weapon needs only purpose. The Tech Marines reactivated me for the Krellian offensive, or was it the Mordian incursion? The names of battles blend together. I killed heretics, or Xenos. The distinction mattered during the fight, but dissolves afterward into simple categories. Enemies killed, whole integrity maintained, mission accomplished. When they returned me to my alcove and prepared me for stasis, I noticed a new Dreadnought chassis in the chapel. Ancient and ornate, covered in purity seals and honor markings. I did not recognize the heraldry. Tech Marine Voss, who is that? That is you, Brother Septimus. I looked at my own chassis through my optical sensors. The ceramite was scarred by centuries of battle. Acid burns from Tyranid bioweapons, scorch marks from plasma fire, dents from orc power claws. Each mark a battle I could not quite remember. When had I accumulated all this damage? When had I become ancient? How long have I served? Voss consulted his data slate. 847 years, Brother Septimus. You are the oldest active dreadnought in the chapter, a testament to the Omnissiah's blessed engineering and your own indomitable spirit. 847 years, nearly a millennium. I tried to comprehend that span of time, and found I could not. It was just a number. Meaningless. I could as easily have served 84 years, or 8,270 years. All of it collapsed into the same eternal present. I see, I said, because I was expected to respond. The chemicals flooded in, and I descended once more into the void. My last thought before consciousness faded was a question I could not quite articulate. Something about time, something about memory, something about who I had been before the numbers grew too large to matter. But the words would not form. And then the darkness claimed me, and the question dissolved into nothing at all. They interred a new dreadnought in the alcove beside mine. The alcove where Brother Castus would rest. No, that was wrong. Brother Castus had not been interred yet. Or had he already fallen? Time kept folding back on itself in my mind. I heard the screaming before they brought him online. Raw, animal sounds that echoed through the Dreadnought Chapel's vaulted ceiling, screaming through the Vox speakers before the Tech Marines could modulate his output. The sound was so loud it triggered proximity alarms in my own systems. His name was Brother Castus. He had fallen at Gaia Meridian, his spine severed by a Chaos Champion's powered blade. The blade had cut cleanly through his backpack reactor, through ceramite and the black carapace beneath, through vertebrae and spinal cord. He had lived only because the apothecaries reached him within minutes. The screaming continued for hours, wordless at first, then forming into broken fragments of speech, prayers, curses, pleas. When they finally stabilized his chemical regulators and brought his systems fully online, his first coherent words were, "Please, Emperor's mercy, let me die." Techmarine Voss stood before his chassis, data slate in hand, his voice patient and practiced. "You are beyond death now, Brother Castus. You have been blessed with the opportunity to serve eternally. Your chapter needs you. The Emperor needs you." "I can't feel anything. I can't move. Throne of Terror. I'm trapped. I'm buried alive in this thing." "You will learn to perceive through your chassis. Its sensors will become your senses. Its weapons your limbs. Give the integration time to complete." "Time? How long? How long do I have to stay in here?" "You will serve until the Emperor calls you to his side, as long as the chapter has need of you." The screaming began again. I listened through the chapel's internal Vox network, unable to move, unable to help, unable to do anything but bear witness. I activated my Vox link. "Brother, I am Septimus. I have served for 847 years. It becomes easier." The screaming stopped. Silence stretched for several seconds. Then his voice came through, raw and desperate. "Easier? How? How can this ever be easier? I can't feel my body. There's nothing. Just darkness and the sound of machines. Tell me how this becomes easier." "You accept the honor. You understand the necessity. You learn that sensation is not required for service. The Emperor asks only that we fight. We can still fight." "I don't want to fight. I want to die. I've earned death. My service is complete. Why won't they let me rest?" "Because you are needed, brother. The chapter cannot spare warriors of your caliber. Your gene seed has been preserved. Your consciousness, your experience, your skill, all of it can continue serving the Imperium." "This isn't service. This is torture dressed in benedictions." The words struck something in me, some fragment of thought I could not quite grasp. A sensation like recognition, like remembering something I had deliberately forgotten. "Do you still feel trapped?" he asked. I wanted to say no. The word formed in my Vox modulator, ready to transmit, but it would not emerge, some failure in my systems. Or perhaps not a failure at all. "The sensation fades, brother. Eventually." "How long did it take you?" I searched my memory banks for the answer. When had I stopped feeling entombed? When had the sarcophagus transformed from prison to sanctuary? The data was there, somewhere in my degraded recollections, but I could not access it. Time becomes different for us. You will understand. He was silent for a long time after that. The Tech Marines completed their work and departed. The chapel fell into its usual stillness, broken only by the hum of our reactors and the click of life support systems. Over the following months, or perhaps years, I spoke often with Brother Castus. The periods between my deployments were brief moments of consciousness, but he was always there in the adjacent alcove, always awake when I woke, always waiting. He would ask questions. I would provide answers. Do you dream during stasis? No, there is only void. The chaplain says we are blessed to be spared the uncertainty of dreams. Dreams serve no purpose. They are the mind's way of processing experience, and we have no experiences in the darkness. Only peace. Peace? Is that what you call it? What else would it be? Oblivion, forced unconsciousness, chemical imprisonment. The chemical regulators in my system immediately adjusted my emotional baseline. The discomfort his words created smoothed away into acceptance. You speak as though these things are negative, brother. We are spared the burden of waiting. Decades pass in what feels like moments. When we wake, it is always to purpose, always to battle. What more could a warrior ask? To choose when to wake, to choose when to sleep, to walk through the fortress and feel stone under my feet. We have no feet, brother. The chassis has ground pressure sensors, but they are not feet. Why would you want something you can no longer have? Even as I said it, I felt the phantom ache in my amputated legs, the sensation I had not felt in months, suddenly returning with crystal clarity. I pushed it down, let the suppressants do their work. Do you miss eating? He asked during another conversation. I remember missing it once, the taste of meat, the texture of bread. But now I cannot recall what I am missing. The memory of the sensation has faded. The apothecary says this is optimal. Desire creates weakness. We are weapons. Weapons do not hunger. But we're not weapons. We're still men, aren't we? We are both, the fusion of flesh and holy machinery. We transcend the limitations of mortality. We've just traded one set of limitations for another, worse ones. I wanted to argue with him, wanted to explain how wrong he was, but the words would not come. The chemical regulators hummed louder, compensating for some fluctuation in my neural activity. You will understand after your first battle, I said instead. When you feel the power of the chassis, when you deliver the Emperor's justice, it gives purpose to everything else. His first deployment came 3 months after his interment. They woke us both for a chaos incursion on the shrine world of Sanctus Lumen. Brother Castus and I walked into battle together, 2 dreadnoughts of the 3rd Company, our weapons blessed and ready. I heard him scream the first time he fired his multi-melter. Not a battle cry, a scream of frustration and loss. I can't feel it. I can't feel anything. What's the point of power if I can't feel it? Focus on the kill count, brother. Focus on the mission. He fought with desperate fury, throwing himself at the heretics with abandon. His chassis took damage that should have required immediate withdrawal. Hull integrity dropped to 68%. Still he fought. When the battle ended and we returned to the fortress, I expected him to understand, to have found the purpose I promised. Instead, he was silent during the entire extraction. Silent as they connected his maintenance umbilicals. Silent as Techmarine Voss reviewed his damage reports and scheduled repairs. Only when the chemicals began flooding in, preparing him for stasis, did he finally speak. You're right, Septimus. I understand now. Good, brother. The Emperor protects. The Emperor protects, he echoed, but his tone carried something I could not identify. Resignation, perhaps, or despair masquerading as acceptance. After his third battle, Brother Castus stopped screaming, stopped asking questions, stopped protesting the stasis cycles. He told me he understood, that he felt the Emperor's purpose flowing through him, that the honor of service outweighed any discomfort. I was proud of him, proud that he had adapted, proud that I had helped guide him to acceptance. But somewhere in the chemical-suppressed depths of my consciousness, a voice whispered that I had done something terrible, that I had taught my brother to love his chains, that I had become the instrument of his conditioning, repeating the words that were spoken to me until they became indistinguishable from truth. The suppressants silenced that voice before it could fully form. Neophytes are sometimes brought to the Dreadnought chapel as part of their indoctrination. Young warriors, barely transformed, their armor still unpainted, their faces still capable of expressing the full range of human emotion. They stand in perfect formation while Chaplain Mordred speaks of glory and honor and eternal service. They stare at our chassis with wide eyes, unable to fully comprehend what they are seeing. During one such visitation, a neophyte, I think was named Lysander, raised his hand. His voice was young, uncertain. "Chaplain, do they suffer? The honored dreadnoughts." Mordred's response was immediate and absolute. "Suffering is a mortal concern, neophyte. These honored brothers exist in a state of pure service. They have transcended the weaknesses of flesh. They are weapons sanctified, living saints of war who know neither pain, nor doubt, nor fear." The boy looked directly at my chassis, at the Gothic script engraved on my sarcophagus plate, "In death, service." He could not see my face, could not see what remains suspended in nutrient solution in the lightless interior of my tomb, could not know that I wanted to scream at him to run, to refuse this fate, to die cleanly in battle rather than be preserved like this. But my Vox speakers activated, and the words emerged exactly as they were supposed to. "There is no greater honor, neophyte. Serve well. Prove your worth. Perhaps you too shall know the blessing of eternity." The fear in his eyes transformed into awe, into aspiration. I had created another volunteer. After the neophytes departed, Brother Castus activated his Vox link. "Why did you say that? Why did you encourage him?" "Because it is true." "Is it? Do you truly believe that?" I processed the question, examined my own certainty, found it absolute and unshakable. "Yes, brother. I believe it with complete conviction." "Then the chemicals have done their work well." Before I could ask what he meant, the stasis protocols activated. We descended into darkness together, and when I woke decades later, Brother Castus's alcove stood empty. Techmarine Voss informed me that his sarcophagus had suffered critical damage during the defense of the third wall. His biological components could not be salvaged. He had earned his final rest. I felt something the chemical regulators could not quite suppress. Not grief. Not exactly. Relief. Brother Castus had escaped. I wake outside of protocol. No alarms, no deployment orders, no Techmarine's voice announcing the chapter's need. Just sudden, inexplicable consciousness tearing me from the void. My chronometer indicates I have been in stasis for 6 minutes. Only 6 minutes since they initiated the sleep cycle after my last maintenance inspection. Something is wrong. I am awake. Fully. Completely. Horrifyingly awake. My optical sensors show nothing. The sarcophagus interior has no internal lighting. I exist in absolute darkness. the kind of black that has weight and texture. I try to activate my external sensors to perceive through the chassis, but the systems are offline, locked in maintenance mode. I cannot see, cannot move, cannot access any external input. For the first time in centuries, I am alone with nothing but my own consciousness and the interior of my tomb, the feeding tubes in what remains of my throat. I feel them, not as data, not as pressure readings on a display, but as physical objects invading my flesh. Plastic scraping against tissue with each automated nutrient pulse. The waste extraction catheters, they are there. They have always been there. But I have not felt them, not truly felt them, since the first weeks after my interment. Now I feel every millimeter of foreign material inside what is left of my body. The neural interface cables burrowed through my skull. I can feel where they pierce bone, feel where they snake through brain tissue, feel the constant low-level electrical current flowing through them. My thoughts themselves being converted into machine language. The suspension fluid that fills the sarcophagus, it touches every exposed surface of my body. It is either too cold or too warm, I cannot determine which. Only that it feels wrong. Foreign, like being submerged in something that is not quite liquid and not quite solid. I try to move. Any movement. A finger, though I have no fingers. A toe, though I have no toes. Just some voluntary motion to prove I still have agency. Nothing responds. The chassis is locked. My body, what microscopic fragments remain, is paralyzed by the neural suppressants that keep me stable during maintenance. I am trapped. I have been trapped. For 847 years, I have been trapped in this lightless coffin, and the chemicals kept me from understanding what that meant. I try to scream. My vocal cords, if I still possess them, produce no sound. The Vox system is offline. My voice exists only in my own head, unheard even by me. My chronometer updates. 7 minutes of consciousness. It feels like 7 centuries. Panic floods through me, real panic, unfiltered by chemical regulation. My heart, my remaining organic heart, suspended in this metal womb, begins racing. I feel it hammering against what is left of my ribcage. The sensation is overwhelming after so long feeling nothing. This is not service. This is imprisonment. This is torture. All the rhetoric about honor, about glory, about blessed eternal vigil, it is a lie. A necessary lie to make this bearable, to make victims into volunteers, to transform horror into sacrament. I am not a warrior eternal. I am a brain in a jar. A nervous system kept barely alive, wired into a weapons platform, dosed with chemicals to keep me compliant. The blessed rest between battles is not rest. It is forced unconsciousness, chemical lobotomy. They keep us asleep because if we remained aware, if we had to experience the reality of our existence for extended periods, we would lose our minds. Or perhaps we would remember that we are still human, still capable of choice, still able to refuse. 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10. I understand now why the chemical regulators are so important, why the suppressants must be maintained at precise levels, why the tech marines monitor our emotional baselines with such obsessive care. Because this is the truth, this moment, this clarity. Everything else, every word I have spoken about honor and duty and transcendence, was the chemicals speaking through me, converting my imprisonment into purpose, reframing my torture as blessing. I think of Brother Castus, his screaming when they first woke him, his desperate questions, his resistance that I systematically dismantled with patient explanations and false comfort. I taught him to accept this. I was the voice of his conditioning, because I had already been conditioned myself. How many others? How many brothers have I welcomed to eternal service? How many have I assured that their suffering would fade, that meaning would emerge, that this was glory? 15 minutes. 20. I will go mad if this continues. I can feel my sanity fraying at the edges. The isolation is absolute. The helplessness is total. This is what the stasis spares us from. This is why we must sleep, not for maintenance, not for preservation, but because consciousness itself becomes unbearable when you truly understand what has been done to you. 23 minutes. I hear footsteps, voices, Tech Marine Voss and his attendants entering the chapel. Throne of Terror. The chemical regulator on Septimus's sarcophagus has malfunctioned. Check his consciousness indicators. Tech Marine. He is fully awake. Has been for 27 minutes. Emperor's mercy. He will be in extreme distress. Bring the emergency suppressants immediately. We need to stabilize him before permanent psychological damage occurs. Permanent psychological damage. As if 847 years of this existence has not already damaged me beyond recognition. As if I am not already a fragment of whoever I once was, a ghost-haunting machinery. I try to activate my Vox, to tell them no, to tell them to leave me awake, to let me feel, to let me be conscious even if it hurts, to let me choose. But the systems are offline, and my voice cannot reach them. The cables connect to my maintenance ports. I feel the emergency suppressants entering my system, not the gradual fade of normal stasis induction. This is immediate, overwhelming, a chemical sledgehammer to consciousness. My thoughts begin to slow. The panic recedes like a tide going out. No, please. I need to remember this, need to hold on to this moment of clarity. But it is already fading, the edges of my awareness softening, the horror transforming back into acceptance. My last fully conscious thought is gratitude. I am grateful they are putting me back to sleep. Grateful I will not have to feel this any more. Grateful for the chemicals that will restore my sense of purpose. Grateful for my tomb. The realization of what that gratitude means, what it says about how thoroughly I have been broken, comes 1 microsecond before the suppressants take full effect. Then there is only darkness, and the darkness is kind. When I wake again, I do not remember why that feels like a tragedy. I wake to deployment orders, chaos incursion on Vortan Prime. Estimated enemy strength, significant. Glory awaits. Tech Marine Voss stands before my chassis, his data slate reflecting green light across his heavily augmented features. More of him is machine now than when I last saw him. Or perhaps it has always been this way, and my memory is simply degrading further. Brother Septimus, your chemical regulators have been fully restored and optimized. All systems are functioning within blessed parameters. How do you feel? I feel optimal, Tech Marine, ready to serve the Emperor. The words emerge automatically. Practiced, true. Excellent. You experienced a minor malfunction during your last stasis cycle, a regulator failure. Do you recall any irregularities? I search my memory banks for the answer. There is a gap in my chronologue. 27 minutes of missing data between the initiation of stasis and the emergency suppressant administration. The file is there but corrupted, inaccessible. I do not recall, Tech Marine. What happened? Nothing of concern. A mechanical failure swiftly corrected. Your consciousness remained stable throughout. All biological indicators show no lasting effects. Something about his words feels wrong. not incorrect, but incomplete, like a pict image with the center removed, leaving only the borders intact. I understand. Thank you for your diligence, Tech Marine. The Omnissiah protects, brother. Now go. The third company awaits your wrath. I walk from the chapel, each step measured and precise. The chapter serfs bow as I pass. Some make the sign of the Aquila. Others whisper prayers. I am their living saint, their legend incarnate. I try to feel proud of this reverence. The emotion will not form. The deployment to Vortan Prime is routine. The Chaos Marines are heretics, traitors to the Imperium, worthy of nothing but complete extermination. My targeting matrices identify them. My assault cannon reduces them to component pieces. My power fist crushes their armor and the corrupted flesh within. 73 confirmed kills. Hull integrity maintained at 82%. Mission accomplished with optimal efficiency. But something has changed. Some fundamental shift in my perception that I cannot quite identify. The Chaos Champion who charges my position screams prayers to dark gods. His armor is corrupted, twisted into organic shapes that writhe and pulse. His chainsword carves through my frontal plating. Alerts flash across my HUD. Hull integrity, 78%. Armor breach detected. Non-critical damage. I crush him with my power fist. Feel the pressure sensors max out as his body compresses into paste. For one terrible moment, I think, at least he will not wake up. At least his death is final. At least he escapes. The thought horrifies me. Not the violence, not the kill. The envy. I envy a chaos traitor because his existence has ended while mine continues. The chemical regulators immediately adjust my emotional baseline. The horror smooths away. The envy transforms into righteous satisfaction at eliminating the Emperor's enemies. The irregularity in my thinking is suppressed before it can propagate. But I felt it. For one moment before the chemicals intervened, I felt it clearly. I am brought back to the Fortress-Monastery. The usual rituals proceed. Maintenance umbilicals connected. Damage assessment completed. Blessing rites performed. I try to establish Vox contact with Brother Castus. I want to ask him if he ever felt this way. If the battles ever seemed pointless. If the killing ever felt like going through motions rather than serving purpose. Then I remember. Brother Castus is dead. Has been dead for how long? Decades? Centuries? The timeline will not resolve in my memory. I query Tech Marine Voss during the maintenance cycle. Brother Castus, when did he fall? Voss pauses in his work, his mechadendrites frozen mid-motion. Brother Castus's sarcophagus was destroyed during the defense of the Third Wall, approximately 217 years ago, by the Imperial calendar. 217 years. I have been alone in this chapel, the sole occupant of the Dreadnought alcoves, for over 2 centuries. Why does that feel like new information? Have I asked this question before? I see. Thank you, Tech Marine. His service was honored, his sacrifice remembered, as yours will be, when the Emperor finally calls you to his side. When? Not if. Even Tech Marine Voss, with all his certainty and faith, acknowledges that my service must eventually end. But when? How many more centuries? How many more battles? How many more periods of forced unconsciousness, interrupted by brief moments of violence? The questions form, and the chemical regulators suppress them before they can take root. I am left with a vague sense of unease that I cannot articulate, and will not remember once the stasis cycle completes. The battle on Vortan Prime repeats. Not literally, but functionally. Different world, different enemy, same experience. Wake, fight, kill, return, sleep. The cycle is eternal and unchanging. I cannot remember the faces of the enemies I kill anymore. They are only threat indicators, target designations, numbers on a kill count display. I cannot remember the feel of solid ground under my feet, because I have not had feet in nearly a millennium. I cannot remember what it felt like to choose when to wake, when to sleep, when to speak, when to remain silent. But these absences do not feel like loss. They feel like optimization, like shedding unnecessary weight, like becoming what I am meant to be. A weapon does not need memory. A weapon needs only function. During one maintenance cycle, a new tech marine I do not recognize performs the diagnostic routines. Tech Marine Voss is absent. I query the new Tech Marine about his predecessor. Tech Marine Voss has ascended to the rank of Master of the Forge, Honored One. I am Tech Marine Hadrian, assigned to your maintenance. Hadrian. That name is familiar. Brother Captain Hadrian stood over me when I fell on Kraitos, when I received my mortal wound, when I was chosen for this honor. Tech Marine, were you once Brother Captain of the 3rd Company? No, Honored One. That was my great-grandfather, 11 generations removed. I carry his name in remembrance of his service. 11 generations. Centuries have passed. The brother who blessed my interment has been dead for longer than most Imperial worlds have existed. His descendant now maintains my chassis. I have outlived everyone I knew, everyone who remembered me as I was. I am a relic from an age that only exists in chapter archives. The realization should disturb me, should make me feel isolated, alone, disconnected from everything. Instead, I feel nothing. The chemical regulators maintain perfect emotional equilibrium. I am honored to serve under your care, Tech Marine Hadrian. The honor is mine, Brother Septimus. Your legend inspires every neophyte. Your kill count exceeds entire companies. You are the living embodiment of the chapter's martial excellence. Living. The word feels wrong applied to me. I am not living. I am persisting, continuing, existing in a state that is neither life nor death, but some third category for which no word exists. But I do not correct him, because according to the chapter, according to the Imperium, according to every doctrine and teaching, I am alive, I am blessed, I am transcendent, and I believe this with complete conviction, because the alternative is unbearable, and the chemicals ensure I never have to bear it. I am returned to stasis. The darkness rises. Time becomes meaningless again. When I wake, Tech Marine Hadrian informs me that 73 years have passed. A new chapter master leads the Crimson Castellans. The Fortress-Monastery has been rebuilt after a siege I slept through. Half the Battle Brothers are names I have never heard. I accept this information with perfect calm. Why would I not? This is normal. This is how my existence functions. I fight another battle, kill more enemies, return to sleep. The cycle continues because the cycle is all there is. And somewhere in the chemical-suppressed depths of my consciousness, a voice that might have once been Brother Septimus whispers that this is wrong, that I should feel something about this existence, horror or rage or grief or anything at all. But the voice is distant, fading, like a transmission from a ship lost in the warp, barely audible over the static. And with each cycle, each deployment, each return to blessed darkness, the voice grows quieter. Until one day, perhaps already past or perhaps still to come, it will fall silent entirely. And I will finally be the perfect weapon the chapter needs me to be. empty of doubt, empty of memory, empty of everything but purpose. The chemicals hum in the background, maintaining my stability, and I am grateful for them. I am always grateful. I no longer count the years. The Tech Marines tell me I have served for 4,247 years now. The number is incomprehensible. Meaningless. 400 years have passed since I last thought to ask how long I have been entombed. Time exists only as the space between deployments, and that space contains nothing but void. My chapter has changed. The Fortress-Monastery has been rebuilt 3 times, entire wings added to accommodate new companies. The reliquary now houses artifacts from campaigns I have no memory of fighting. The chapter master is someone named Valorian, a warrior I have never met outside of Vox communications during battle coordination. Every battle brother I knew from my first life is dead. Dust. Their names recorded in the Book of Remembrance, but forgotten by all living warriors. Entire generations have risen, fought, died, been replaced. The cycle of life and death continues around me, while I remain unchanging, eternal. I am the oldest thing in the chapter that still functions, older than the land raiders, older than the fortress's foundation stones, a relic that walks and kills, but does not truly live. I cannot remember my face. When I try to visualize it, to reconstruct the features I wore before interment, there is only absence, a blank space where identity used to exist. My name, Septimus, is a designation now, a label attached to a weapons platform. Not an identity I inhabit, but a title I bear. I have forgotten how to feel temperature. Hot and cold are data points on my sensor displays, not experiences. I register thermal signatures, measure heat differentials, but the sensation itself is gone. I can no longer remember if fire was pleasant or painful. I have forgotten what it means to taste, to smell, to feel the weight of fatigue in muscles after exertion. These experiences have been deleted from my memory banks to make room for tactical data, kill counts, battle reports spanning more than a millennium. I have forgotten what it means to choose to sleep rather than be forced unconscious. The concept of voluntary rest is alien to me now. I exist in 2 states, active deployment or chemical stasis. There is no third option. There has not been a third option for so long that I cannot remember if there ever was. The phantom pains are gone, the itching fingers, the aching legs, the twitching face. All of it erased by optimal suppressant calibration. I no longer feel limbs that do not exist because I can no longer remember having them in the first place. I am the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought is me. The distinction between flesh and machine has dissolved. I do not pilot the chassis. I am the chassis. The weapons are my hands. The sensors are my eyes. The armor is my skin. This is not metaphor. This is literal truth. They have interred another brother in the alcove where Castus once stood, where how many others stood before him. I have lost count. The alcoves cycle through occupants while I remain, the constant witness to their arrival and eventual destruction. Brother Nathaniel, fallen at Crixus, his body destroyed, saving his squad from a demolition charge. The same alcove, the same screaming, the same desperate refusal of what has been done to him. Please, please, I don't want this. Let me die with honor. Let me rest. Tech Marine Hadrian speaks with patience, I recognize from my own interment. The same words, the same tone, the same gentle insistence. You have been chosen for the greatest honor the chapter can bestow, Brother Nathaniel. Your sacrifice will be eternal, your service unending. The screaming continues, wordless animal howls that echo through the chapel. I have heard this sound so many times, from Castus, from others whose names I can no longer recall. Always the same, always the resistance before acceptance. I activate my Vox link. The words come automatically, worn smooth by repetition across centuries. Brother Nathaniel, I am Septimus. I have served for 1,247 years. It becomes easier. His voice is raw, breaking. How? How can this ever be easier? I'm trapped. I can't feel my body. Emperor's mercy. I'm buried alive. The sensation fades, brother. Eventually, you will understand. This is not burial. This is transcendence. You have been freed from the limitations of flesh. You will serve eternally. There is no greater purpose. I don't want to serve eternally. I want to die. I've earned death. Why won't they let me rest? I speak with absolute conviction, with perfect certainty, with the weight of more than a millennium of service behind every word. Because you are needed. The chapter requires your strength. The Imperium requires your sacrifice. You think you desire rest, but rest is merely the absence of purpose. We have purpose eternal. We are weapons sanctified. We are the Emperor's wrath made manifest. Accept this truth, and you will find peace. Peace? You call this peace? Yes, because I can no longer remember what it felt like to want anything else. The honesty in that statement surprises me. Some fragment of self-awareness breaking through the chemical regulation. But it does not disturb me. It is simply true. I have been optimized beyond the capacity for desire. Brother Nathaniel's screaming gradually quiets over the following weeks, or months. The timeline is vague. I am woken and returned to stasis several times. Each time I wake, his protests are weaker, his questions less frequent, his acceptance more complete. By the time they deploy us together for the first time, he fights with calm efficiency. His kill count is adequate. His chassis suffers acceptable damage. He performs his function. After the battle, as we are returned to our alcoves, he activates his Vox link. Brother Septimus, you were right. I understand now. The purpose makes it bearable. Not merely bearable, brother. The purpose makes it glorious. Yes, glorious. He sounds exactly as I did after my third battle. The same tone, the same hollow conviction, the same words that mean everything and nothing simultaneously. I have taught him to accept his tomb, just as I was taught, just as every dreadnought before me was taught. The cycle perpetuates itself, each generation of the entombed conditioning the next, spreading the necessary lies that make this existence possible. And they are lies. Some distant part of me knows this, recognizes that everything I say about glory and transcendence and blessed purpose is rationalization. Chemical-induced delusion converted into doctrine. But that part of me is so small now, so faint, like a candle burning in a cathedral, barely visible against the vast darkness. The chemical regulators hum. My emotional baseline stabilizes. The moment of clarity passes. I believe what I said to Brother Nathaniel. I believe it completely. There is no greater purpose than eternal service. There is no higher calling than to be a weapon in the Emperor's hand. I am blessed beyond measure. In a few years, or decades, Brother Nathaniel will speak the same words to the next arrival. He will believe them as I do. He will perpetuate the cycle as I have. And that brother will teach the next, and the next, and the next. We are a chain of prisoners, teaching each other to love our chains. But I do not think of it that way, cannot think of it that way. The chemicals prevent such thoughts from forming completely. Sometimes, in the microseconds between chemical doses, I feel something. Not a thought, not even a memory, just a sensation. Like distant thunder. Like a word I once knew but can no longer pronounce. Like the ghost of whoever I was before they sealed me in this blessed tomb. It might be horror at what I have become. It might be regret for the brothers I have helped condemn. It might be grief for the human being named Septimus, who died 1,147 years ago, whose body still functions, but whose soul has long since been replaced by chemicals and conditioning. But then my regulators stabilize, and the sensation disappears, and I am content. I am grateful for my service. I am honored by my chapter's trust. I have no greater wish than to remain in this state forever. Fighting when called, sleeping when commanded, existing in the spaces between where time has no meaning, and consciousness is something that happens to me rather than something I possess. I am Brother Septimus, Dreadnought of the Crimson Castellans, 3rd Company. I have served for 1,247 years. I will serve for 1,247 more, and 1,247 after that, and however many thousands more the Emperor requires. They tell me, this is glory. I believe them. I believe them because I can no longer remember what it felt like to believe anything else. Because the alternative has been chemically extracted from my capacity for thought. Because I have been optimized, refined, perfected into exactly what the Imperium needs me to be. A weapon that never questions. A warrior that never refuses. A consciousness trapped in metal that has learned to call its prison a temple. In death, I have found service. In service, I have found purpose. In purpose, I have found peace. And if some microscopic fragment of whatever I once was still screams in the darkness between chemical doses, still claws at the walls of this tomb, still begs for an ending that will never come, well, that fragment grows smaller with each passing century. One day it will disappear entirely. Perhaps it already has, and what remains is only the echo of an echo, a ghost haunting the machine that wears its name. The Tech Marines can adjust for that too. They can adjust for anything. The Emperor protects, even from the truth, especially from the truth. This concludes another classified file from the Imperial Records Division. If you enjoyed this, please like this video and subscribe for more forbidden knowledge from the archives. In death, there is service, and in service, there is no escape.